A sidebar to that was the amazing story of the Muslim children from Bosnia when they were sent to Israel. They first sent them to Arab villages, and they didn't want to go there because they're city folk and they're Western. And they ended up settling them with Jewish families instead, because that's where their world was, more consciously. But let me come back. Where's the world in which we remember? It was Russians and Belarus, Soviets. It's hard to tell who's what, because the boundaries kept changing. I asked my grandmother, was she a citizen? Well, she wasn't a citizen of any of the countries. Was it Belarus? Was it Ukraine? Was it Russia? Was it Poland? And she said, yes. We are one when we realize the common goals, that it matters not our religion, our race, our specific ethnic orientation, or even what is stamped on our passport. When there is evil in the world, it only is our responsibility to join with like-minded people to defeat it. When people choose to do evil things, then we have to do the God-given responsibility of showing them that that is not the way of the eternal. When I sat there and filled in that letter in the book of Deuteronomy, as we closed out the writing of this new Torah, in the commemoration of an event that brought back to life a Jewish community in its own home in Germany, that had not seen a home that it could call its own since 1938, this weekend, was one of the most powerful moments in my life. I had nothing to do with it other than being asked. I was there to help that community rise up. And seeing Germans seeking forgiveness and Americans seeking embrace, and Germans and Russians who had come there and Polish Jews who are now German, and realizing that a healing can occur when we are all committed to never again. And then I understand that there is hope for the future. May we always capture the sense of commitment that the citizens, Jewish and non-Jewish, of Belarus fought to the death to slow down hate. May we take that to our hearts, but hope to build a time in which we don't have to fight. We don't even have to argue, but that they have found a way in which we join hands. And in remembrance in the best of ways, bring forward a world in which each of us steps forward, embracing the other, so that there is no longer such times to remember. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Alex. I'm Esther Wynn Mueller, and it is my honor every year to present the winner of the Never Again Award. And as most of you know, we have a scholarship competition for an essay written by a high school student that explains a current genocide or state-sponsored oppression. It is my pleasure to introduce Leah Tams. Leah is a senior at Clover Hill High School, the Math and Science Specialty Center. She is a lover of history. In addition to writing her paper today, she has won the Bobby Chandler Research Award from the Virginia Historical Society for an analysis on Trenton, New Jersey in the 1900s. So she is a scholar and a historian. She's also a musician. She plays the flute and the piccolo and will be appearing this week in the Veterans Day Parade in New York with her band. So it is my great honor to introduce Leah and her paper that she's going to present to you. On the table over here, as we do every year, I fully expect every one of you to go home today and do something. Not just to sit here in the sun and talk about it. And she has written a page of things you can do. Some of it could involve money. Some of it would involve a letter and no money, so there's no excuse. So before you leave, you're going to go to the table and pick up one of those pieces of paper and do something today. Leah Tams.
The bright morning sun rises above the trees as the forest foliage glistens with dew. A small child runs after his father, and they head off to the clear running waters of the river ahead of them. The father patiently shows his son how to fish in the river, a warm, gentle smile on his proud face. But this picture of contentment only lies in the dreams of indigenous peoples throughout Latin America. At this very moment, countless indigenous tribes are faced with genocide as the natural resources in their rainforests are being exploited. Tribes cope with violence and death as they are removed from their homes and relocated to other places. These people have no voice in their governments or in decisions that affect their lands and their lives. Tribal leaders like Marcinho Zucru of the Zucru in Brazil have received numerous death threats for not yielding to outside demands to leave their homes. The government places them in new homes that bring further death upon the people, as they cannot expand their agriculture, which provides their income and their sustenance. The government doesn't provide the tribes with an adequate amount of food either. Shelter and sanitation are very poor, and many people suffer from malnutrition, and the infant mortality rates are astronomical. Living in extreme poverty, many tribes have been nearly wiped out, and there seems to be no end in sight. The indigenous peoples of Latin America also face cultural genocide. The Latin American tribes are not constitutionally recognized by their country's governments, so they are constantly denied basic and vital human rights. The very few rights that do exist do not adequately protect the tribe's traditions and customs. They face heavy discrimination and prejudice where they have been forced to live, so their unique cultures are being extinguished. How can we stop genocide from occurring? One way to break the vicious cycle of genocide is to unequivocally affirm the past. We must acknowledge past genocides in order to identify the current ones, condemn them, and end them. The United Nations has taken action against genocides with its Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination and its Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which attempt to eliminate the precursors of genocide. We can also help the victims of genocide by getting involved in organizations like Amnesty International that work to preserve human rights and lives around the world. Another way to get involved is to write to the officials of countries involved in genocide to make them aware of global opinions about the crimes that are being committed in their countries. It is important to keep informed about genocides and spread the word to other people to make them aware of the great injustices that are taking place. Teaching tolerance to the children of the world is crucial because discrimination is a huge cause of genocide. Become involved with relief efforts. As a global society, we must take action and teach tolerance to our children to end genocide and prevent it in the future because it shouldn't happen. Never again.
Raful and Helen Grunstein, my grandparents, lived in a small town in Lakinsa, Romania, with their 5 children. Raful was a baker. My mother, Miriam Grunstein-Schumann, said many times that her father was a very smart man. He was known in the town as a person who could get things done. Whenever there was a need for something at the temple, the first person they would go to was Raful. When my mother was asked, how did he do this? She said that he was just that kind of a person. He served in World War I and talked to his children about his experiences during the war. He tried to prepare them for the unknown future that laid ahead of them, based on the little information he was able to obtain about what was happening in countries in Europe around him. He told them that if they were separated, to return to their hometown when they were able, in order for the family to reunite. He had a lot of hope, and he tried to pass this on to his family. His encouragement persisted even when they had to move to a larger town because he couldn't find work, and eventually he couldn't leave his own home because he looked too Jewish. He perished in the gas chambers in Auschwitz.